episode of I Hate Golf. It's awesome. My name's Caleb. He's Mark. And what's going on?
That's the loudest start I've ever heard in my life.
Was it loud?
It scared me.
Oh, I'm sorry. If you're in the car listening to this, then that's my bad. I've got some energy. I just had some espresso and a little bit of pizza, so I'm feeling pretty good. How are you?
And Krispy Kreme.
Yeah. It's the holidays. There's no diet happening right now, that's for sure. What's going on?
Right now, we are dodging the tons of water on the golf course we're dealing with after a couple of days of rain.
Yeah, it's kind of odd weather going on right now. You know, we actually had a pretty nasty thunderstorm roll through overnight and into the morning. The course is wet and it is about to get extremely cold. We were just talking about the fact that Saturday morning the feels like is going to be about 3 degrees. So that's not ideal. But yeah, we're getting the course back. You know, been working on it a little bit today. Get it. You know, there's not much you can do unless the sun comes out. But
we should do just thinking about that. Feels like 3 degrees. You can play for $3. See if anyone does it.
$3 after 3 a.m. Yeah, that's a good deal. Well, Merry Christmas, everyone. If you're listening to us, before Christmas, if it's after Christmas when you listen to this, and still Merry Christmas too. We're getting ready, for the holidays. I see you've wrapped all your presents. Is all your shopping done?
Everything is finished. I did it in one day.
That's great. I think I've said I was finished about 3 different times, and I keep having to run errands. So that's not great, especially when everyone's doing the same exact thing. But thought we'd do one more podcast for the holidays. We'll probably do another one next week for the end of the year. This probably won't be our last one for the year. But thanks for listening to us this year, even though we've been pretty inconsistent. This is 3 in a row now. That's a big deal. This is 3 weeks in a row. That is definitely a record. I know for certain that that's a record. But yeah, everyone's kind of winding down their year. How have give me your general takes on how this year has gone?
Actually, if I step back and look, it's been a very good year. Mm-hmm. Again, I always have the problem of knowing where I want to be.
Right.
And that wasn't a 12-month process.
Right.
Yes, I look around, I have to remind myself, it's like, oh my goodness, how much better is that?
Yeah.
A lot of times it's just small details that other people don't even notice.
Right.
That it's like, oh wow, we put the work in and we got that done. That's why I keep saying I'm so eager for spring and get into our second growing season.
Right.
But no, it's been a really good 12-month. It's been a good first year. Very proud of what we've done. Yeah, did we make some mistakes? Well, of course we did.
I didn't.
Well, I was just going to say it's like I spent a lot of time correcting mistakes by other people around me. But other than that, no, it's been a good year. It's like, and we've learned a lot too.
No,
and it's
absolutely.
Like every golf course, every community you go to, I've always said has a different personality. And you really, to fully understand where you need to go, you need to have a really good feel for what that personality is. And I think we've started to pick up on that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's like we've said a million times, there's a lot of challenges, but, very happy with the progress that we've made kind of overall. We're right now kind of taking advantage of the not great weather. We're working on the car barn, working on the maintenance building, kind of getting everything ready for spring, because spring is going to be here a lot sooner than we expect. So trying to stay ahead of those things and make sure that, as soon as the grass starts growing, as soon as I was just yesterday looking, okay, what's the long-term weather projections? What's our first day of spring going to look like actually, that we have to get to work, and just kind of spending this time getting prepared. And I feel like, as long as nothing catastrophic happens, I feel like we're going to be in a pretty good spot. Maybe wow. I shouldn't say that. It's just, yeah.
And it is a lot of the things we're doing now, like you said, that, the cleaning up, straightening up, getting things the way we want them. That's for the purpose of making us more efficient and effective when we get to growing season. So we're not chasing things that we could have gotten done in January.
Right.
So that's a lot of what's going on right now.
Right. Yeah, and it's a lot of stuff that, most people won't notice or most people won't see. Some of it because it's literally behind the scenes stuff. I mean, no one's going to see the maintenance building and what we're doing down there unless, maybe once we have it finished, we could have a video of it kind of explaining what we do. That'd probably be a good thing. But, a lot of the just kind of logistical things of, how do we function better on the course?
Well, and probably the biggest news is we may have found potential bathroom in the maintenance building.
Yeah.
After tearing one in. And when we first came in, we did a lot of cleanup, especially at the maintenance building. Just trailers and trailers of trash and junk removed from there and cleaned out so we could actually function out of there. Thought we did a good job. Well, at one end, we decided to tackle that and clean it out even more and remove a lot of stuff that shouldn't have been there to begin with. Right. And lo and behold, back in the corner, there's where they had done the plumbing and the foundation, and it's like, oh, wow, could there possibly be an opportunity to actually put in a bathroom at the maintenance building? It's like, it's mind-boggling that no one would have thought about that. And I always like, how could you possibly do that?
Yeah.
And it's, the maintenance building's a mile from the clubhouse.
Yeah.
So that's kind of thrilling, actually. And little things like that nobody cares about.
Yeah.
It's like when something happens like that, it's like, wow, that's awesome.
Right. Well, I was just telling you the other day, it's like we have a photo from when they were still constructing the golf course, and in it you can see Tom Jackson holding the original plans for the course, and there's nothing I would like more than to have those original plans, to be able to see kind of how everything was laid out, because we have some development plans, but we don't have, unfortunately, really any records of the actual course or anything like that would be useful. And what I do is, whenever I'm bored, I just go on Google Earth and I'll look back at the timeline of, okay, 5 years ago, what did this look like? Has anything changed? 5 years before that, has anything changed? And because I think it's useful, and, things like discovering, we actually have a cut through that we can use on the course that will help a lot in maintenance. And it's like, there's just so many things that unless someone knows it and they tell it to you, you're just never going to figure it out unless you stare at the same path of trees and think, why is there a path there? That's kind of how we figured out a lot of stuff, talking about, before the course was here, is like the cut through behind number 3 going down to the tee boxes on 2. It's like, oh, well, that's where the railroad was. It's like, that's what was here before, and just trying to understand the physical makeup of the course and, a lot of stuff like that.
Well, and continuity hasn't been a trademark of this property. Yeah. So it's kind of...
How many names has it had?
Very random. So, yeah, it's like that, finding, wow, there could be a place for a bathroom in the corner of the maintenance building. It sounds really bizarre to say that.
Right.
Yeah, it's like when you're told, no, there's nothing down there, and it's buried behind walls and lockers and everything else. It's like, wow, that's a big deal.
Yeah. Well,
especially for our maintenance guys.
Not only is it buried behind, this is like the 3rd time that we've gone through and just cleared stuff out. And that's kind of how it feels like how everything has to be done. It's like you do something to make it better, then you do it again to make it even better. And then maybe the 3rd time you figure out, oh, this is how this should actually be. And it's layers upon layers. And, it is exciting when you actually it's like you discover something.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty much the same as working on the golf course. Mm-hmm. You do something to get it to a level, and it's like, oh, wow, we really got there.
Right.
And then you start looking at it, it's like, no, we've got a long ways to go to get where we can call it we got there. Right. So, yeah, it's kind of, that's true across. And again, don't think we're complaining. It's like, yeah, this is what we do.
Yeah.
And it's exciting. It's like, I know exciting. Some people look at it and say, oh, gee, look where this is at right now. It's like, Okay, and I look at it as like, wow, look where we're at right now.
Yeah, it's totally dependent on your perspective. That's for sure. One quick thing I do want to say is the Trail Pass, which we have all the information up on the website. I'll link below that where you can find that. That will go on sale next week officially. I'll be putting out some more information about that this weekend. It is Christmas weekend, so I don't expect everyone to be checking their emails, but that will go on sale officially next week as we head towards the first of the year. So that's exciting. So just stay tuned for that.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that because I think that's a tremendous value opportunity for golfers to participate with us. It's kind of our way of rewarding people that want to consistently play golf here,
Right.
And give them some benefit to that, as well as what we're doing with the membership program.
Right.
So, yeah, both ways. It's like now we have a feel for it. And it's like, okay, here's what we'd like to offer.
Right. Yeah. I'm very excited about that. So today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, everyone's hopefully finished up their Christmas shopping. Everyone's out searching for presents. I wanted to talk to you today about
Cubs
buying
in the spring training.
Oh, Tani's coming next year. Don't you worry about that. It's going to be a lot of reading rumors. No, I wanted to talk to you today about buying a golf course because I think that that's something that people probably don't know anything, or maybe they think that they kind of have an idea, but not the specifics of everything, but just kind of the general. How do you go about buying a golf course? What do you look at when you're evaluating a course that's for sale? Because you've looked at a million golf courses that have been for sale. You haven't bought all of them, obviously.
Thank
but
goodness.
Yeah, but I just, I think that's something that, I don't really see a lot of people talking about that. You always see when, this course has been sold and they're bringing in this architect to redesign or renovate, but you never see kind of the before of everything. So if you could just, share a little bit about that.
I guess you start by looking at the core of the property and the community. To me, number one is, in fact, I always tell people, if you see a broker or a golf course owner promoting their golf course as a hidden gem, that means nobody goes there. So that's real estate talk. So there's things like that you watch out for. And again, it's like you go back to National Golf Foundation statistics and what they talk about, the population a golf course needs to succeed. And you look at some of those numbers, and I think they do generally apply. So you can use that as a guideline, how many golfers you need for your golf course to be successful. But really, again, after all these years, to me, it's walking onto a property and kind of getting a sense for the personality of it. I think that's critical. You start with that, and then you go with, okay, what are they asking for the golf course? And what has to be done to the golf course.
Right.
You look at a golf course. Golf courses can be anywhere from $500,000 to the biggest number you want.
Yeah.
And typically, golf course owners trying to sell the property think it's more valuable than what it really is.
Right.
For example, things people don't consider. It's like, well, you got that golf course over there in North Carolina really cheap. Well, was it really cheap when there's no equipment? The irrigation system is blown up.
Right.
They have no staff in place. You're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, $500,000 in equipment. A new irrigation system you're going to start at $1 million. Now you can patchwork it along the way if it's not too bad, but it's and then you equate that back to what is my time investment? What is this going to take for me to get it to where I need it to be?
Right.
That's a major factor now, especially now that I've done this for a long time and I'm getting a little older. It's like I'm not looking for a 10-year project.
Right.
So that's not a big deal for you, but for me now it is. But no, there's a lot in that equation, and most of it, to me, still comes back to there was a golf course we really wanted in North Carolina. And we had an agreement with the owners to buy it twice.
Yeah.
And for some reason, they changed their mind and didn't want to sell it.
Yeah.
And that's okay too. It's their golf course. They can do that. But most people at the time looked at that golf course and said, no way.
No.
Why would you want it? Stay away from it. And I'm looking at it, it's like, that's exactly the property I want.
Right.
But it didn't work out. And now I've just recently heard someone else bought it. And, I wish them all the best, and I hope they get it to where it should be. But again, that property. And there's been others the same way. There's been golf courses I've wanted that I've looked back, and it's like, boy, glad I didn't get it.
Right.
And kind of pleased with that as well, as much as I'm disappointed in the ones I didn't get. The golf course here, it was kind of at the bottom.
Right.
Florence, we looked at Florence, it's like, wow, there's population there. There's golf population there. The golf course is underperformed. But at the same time, price had very little to do with it, because the price had no value, because there's no equipment, irrigation system's blown up, no staff. It's like
all of those things that you were just saying that make people stay away from golf courses.
Exactly.
It had every single one.
That was us. But again, we came to the property. Maybe it was the second time I was here that you came with me, or the first time, I don't remember. But it's like, okay, this is a Tom Jackson golf course, and it looks like a Tom Jackson golf course.
Right.
No one tinkered with it. No one messed with it. It was still here. And it was a quality layout. You could see that it was still there. And it was like, okay, if we can get this on terms that we think we can make it work, yeah, let's take a shot at it.
Yep.
And at that time, you weigh, okay, here's the amount of effort it's going to take to do that. And, you weigh that decision and you say, okay, let's take a shot at it.
Right.
It's like we're still looking at other golf courses. There was one in South Florida we were just dealing with. Another one we thought we had purchased. We hadn't made a final yes, and they had made a final yes, and we withdrew our offer. And especially in hindsight, seeing all of the hidden issues
Right.
that, when you get into the huge clubhouse and, the lack of ongoing maintenance, and when you're talking about paying more of a premium price for it, then it's like, no, I'm not sure that's a good investment.
Right.
And when I say good investment, I mean mostly my time.
Yeah.
Because, if you know what you're doing, you can make sure you don't lose money in a golf course. Now, a lot of people can't do that, but we've been doing it long enough. Yeah, it's like we can make it work. It's just the amount of effort it takes to do that. It consumes you, and is it worth that investment? To me, that's how I make the decision. So I guess the short answer is there's an equation on one side, and then there's your personal evaluation on the other side, trying to match with that golf course.
Right.
Because there's some really nice golf courses that have probably sold at pretty good prices that I've had no interest in. One is didn't want to be in that community, didn't want to be there, didn't like the logistics of the property, all of those things that factor in, because as you found out, when you do this, that's your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, that's what I tell staff all of the time. It's like, don't show up here with drama. Don't show up here being miserable, because this is where I'm living my life, and I don't want that to be a part of my life.
Right.
So if you can't enjoy your work and put a good effort in, you're probably not going to fit really well with us.
Right. Well, you talking about, the personal evaluation of everything. Is there one specific thing that is the first thing when you walk on a golf course that you look for? Is there one thing that you can say, this is exactly what I'm looking for, before you get into kind of the overall evaluation of how does everything work? What's the layout? Is there one specific thing that you look at?
Probably the number one for me is the golf course playable for the average player. That's number one for me. As we looked at a golf course in St. Augustine, a golf course that oh man, I always thought we were living in St. Augustine. That would be really awesome if we had a golf course in St. Augustine. So we went out and played it, and it's like, holy crap, what is this? Who built this thing? It's like you didn't need a map for the golf course. You needed a map on how to get around the golf course. It was, and some of the holes were just so absolutely funky. It was just, we walked away and said, oh my, and the clubhouse layout matched the golf course.
Yeah.
It was like, no way, no terms could make this happen. So, it's like, it was unplayable.
I think there were at least 3 holes where if you didn't know where the hole was going, you were going to be not in someone's backyard, you were going to be in someone's front yard.
You were in the street in front of their house on one hole.
Yeah.
And it was a dogleg right. And it's like, oh, wow, I think you hit the wrong club.
You'd think you'd put up a little bit of signage, but no, just keep that blind, I guess.
Now we know why they had the barricade in their backyard. But no, it's really, to me, it's that. And if it's, because most golf courses aren't built by golf course designers and architects.
Right.
It's like Ward Northrop. If I know Ward Northrop built a golf course, it's like, oh, I'm really interested in that golf course. The same as a Tom Jackson. There's some of them that are just, it's a one-time build for someone that did it locally, and it's like you have to really be careful.
Right.
So that's the biggest part of it to me.
That's the reason why typically one of the first, I'm one of the weird people that when I go to a golf course for the first time, I read the scorecard, like front page, back page, everything. And I always look to see, do they have the architect name? That's why I put, Tom Jackson on the front of our scorecard, because we're proud of that.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot involved with it. Again, I don't even know how to describe what I mean when I say personality of a golf course. It's a feel. Right. That when I evaluate a golf course, how does this feel? What's it feel like? How does it fit in the community? And what's going on here? What are the golfers? And it's just, so that's kind of that more vague side of it, as opposed to, okay, here's the list. Does it meet your list? So that's kind of, and again, I've been on hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of golf courses all over the country. We still have a nonprofit, a 501c3. I can remember years ago, a golf course outside of Scottsdale, Arizona. Went there, and basically the owner said, "Here, take my keys." And I said, "No, thank you." It just there was no way it was going to work.
Yeah.
And that's not the only time that's ever happened, where people are saying, in fact, in consulting with owners, I had an owner say, "Gee, I'm losing $300,000 a year. Would you take a look?" It's like, sure. It's like, what do you think? Okay, here's my opinion. I can save you $300,000 a year. Close the golf course. They don't like to hear that, but a lot of times that's the reality of it. Right. Some golf courses just shouldn't be there.
Right.
And for some reason, there's always someone that just thinks they're going to make it work. They're going to make it happen. And it's hardly ever a golf person. Mm-hmm. It's someone else out there. We've heard that about this property. It's like, oh, we should have gotten that, or we should have done that. And it's like, yeah, that was kind of the cycle it was in.
Yeah.
And it needed something a little more than that. So, yeah, it's kind of the long version, but it is. And there is kind of this mystery about what one works and what one doesn't.
Right.
But number one is what's the basic structure of the property, and number two is always the community. Mm-hmm. You have to have that combination, because you can make grass better, you can clean up things, you can run it better, but is that still going to work?
Right.
Sometimes that's not going to work.
Right.
Because it's the wrong property and the wrong place, and you can't fix that.
Mm-hmm. At what point does, because I'm sure that, there's a good Instagram page that I follow that shows, old courses that have closed and that are just now nothing. At what point, because, I'm thinking of a course specifically in South Florida that we both know that, did close its doors, that it did kind of hit that point of, it's not going to be a functioning golf course, at least for the time being. At what point does a golf course, get so far gone that it will never be a golf course again?
Well, one, you start with, why did it get so far gone? Mm-hmm. Was it an owner that just didn't know what he was doing, and there was money in the cash register, so he thought he was rich that day and didn't realize, no, that's golf course operation money and improvement money. It starts with that, but and that's what you hope for. But really, it's, there was a golf course that was closed in Sarasota. A consultant called me and wanted me to meet him in the clubhouse with the owner to discuss what we could do for them. So pulled in a really nice clubhouse up on kind of like a small hill, which for that part of Sarasota was kind of unique. Nice drive-in, half-acre lots, nice homes. And it's like, wow, this looks like okay. So let's get in a golf cart. And the owner said, no, we probably shouldn't get in the golf cart. Let's get in my Jeep. So, oh, wow, okay. Let's do that. So we climb in his Jeep, and we start going down a cart path to what was the first tee, and the growth was 5 to 7 feet high. And the only thing you couldn't see anything. We went 2 holes like that, and then it broke out into the open, and there was a stream that ran through the golf course, and you could see where wild pigs had destroyed the property.
Oh my gosh.
And it was just, I'm thinking, why am I here? And he's asking me and the other consultant, who's the finance guy, about, okay, what do you think we can do? And we kind of looked at each other, and I said, Joe, tell him what you can do. Because I'm thinking, I can't do anything here. This is a start over. And the golf course had only been closed 18 months.
Wow.
But again, that's Sarasota.
Yeah.
You're talking about a lot of growing season.
Yeah.
Whereas, if that's in Minnesota or Indiana, it's you probably have a little bit more time. But the biggest issue with that is when it was closed, what condition did you leave the mechanics in of the golf course, meaning the irrigation, the clubhouse, all of that?
Right.
That's all additional to the turf.
Right.
Obviously, the first things to grow, the golf course you mentioned in South Florida, in 12 months, their greens have to be redone.
Yeah.
There's no maintenance. There's no cutting. There's nothing. There's no treatments. So there you go. There's probably minimum $300,000 to $400,000, if not more, depending on where we're going price-wise with all this stuff. So it's like, okay, I'll buy that golf course. Already I'm $500,000 in the hole.
Yeah.
Not to mention, and this is something people don't consider, it's like, okay, I can come up with $300,000 to redo those greens. You realize in that 6 to 8 to 12 week process, you have no revenue because you still have no greens. So you have to add that onto the time that you're already down. So, yeah, there's a lot of obstacles. Once a golf course goes, it goes in a hurry. It really does. Plus, it becomes, again, part of the personality of the property.
Right.
Failed golf course.
Right.
So it has that image in a community. Like I said, we just finished up with the golf course. We withdrew our offer. It's like the first thing I told the group was, you have a really negative image in the community that's hard to overcome when you're talking about a premium property. So, yeah, it's like now you talk about a golf course that's closed. Sure, some people will be excited about it. It's like, yeah, some people are excited thinking, gee, maybe I can play for $20 again.
Yeah.
Which is probably one of the reasons it closed to begin with.
Right.
So, and we know in this area, 2 or 3 golf courses have closed in the last 5-6 years. You know, one just opened and great for them, but that's not typical.
No. And it seems to me like I think, well, a lot of where I'm seeing this is kind of more on the high end, private, exclusive, national membership clubs. But it seems to me like a lot of the money in golf is moving the way of building new, as opposed to, renovating courses that have, not failed, but are kind of lower end courses or considered lower end courses. It seems like a lot of people would just rather spend the money to build something new, something of their own. And it's like, it seems like there's now more golf architects working than ever. I mean, there's not a short supply of who you can hire to come in and design something new, design what you want. It just seems like, it seems like the courses, on the lower side, there's not as much interest in that as there is in, building new.
Well, you're talking about groups that come up with $10 million.
Right.
And it's like, why would you go invest that in a failed property?
Right.
What's changed that's going to make that property work?
Right.
And a lot of people don't do a really good job of evaluating that. It's like, no, I'm going to pick a different site. I'm going to pick a new location, and we're going to make a completely fresh start with a new product instead of rehashing an old product that failed. Now, if you can do that for $500,000 of rehashing, well, maybe you want to do it.
Right.
But if you've got the resources to start with something fresh and new, absolutely, that's the best choice every time.
Yeah. Plus, you avoid that, like you were talking about, the negative image of everything. Not even just within the community, but I mean, something as simple as changing the branding of a course, whether that's name or logos or whatever. It's just it gives you a fresh opportunity. Specifically, how do you find out a golf course is for sale?
I usually get phone calls. In fact, I'll get people text me and ask me, hey, did you see this golf course is for sale? And it's like, no, I didn't, because I typically don't look at real estate listings for golf courses, because to me, when it gets to that point, it's too late to buy it because there's too many people with their hand out trying to make money off of that.
Right.
I have good relationships with at least 2 or 3 people who are very active in the golf community, and they know we're always interested in whether we can manage a property for someone or whether it's a property that, hey, we'd be interested in buying. So I get calls or emails about those properties, and yeah, I'll usually make the first call to see where it's at. Most of the time, it doesn't go past that first call. As you know, it's like last summer or last spring, I sent you to a golf course that we were interested in taking the next step. But once we took that step, it was kind of like, no, that's really not what we want to do. So, yeah, it's if it's a broker listing it and going out to everyone, I've always said, it's like, no, I don't want to be. In fact, we saw that a couple of times where we shook hands and said, okay, there's your price. We'll give you that price. And we find out later they use that to try to leverage other people to get more money. And it's like, no, we're not doing that. We're done. So, yeah, that's why I avoid that. It's, there's not bidding wars for golf courses, but there's always someone with money that can really mess up an opportunity for you because they don't know better. And would love to talk to those people because I could help them find a golf course before that happens to anyone. But, that's the job of the broker to make that happen. So that's what they're doing, and the owner wants that to happen. Right. So once it gets to that stage, it's like, no, I'm not interested anymore.
Right. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the course that I went and looked at this past spring. That was I think that was probably the first time I've ever gone and looked at a course on my own without you. And it's just like thinking about being on the property and kind of seeing wow, this has a lot of potential. It's a great layout, and it's got a nice clubhouse. It's got great equipment, and it's like you're there and you're kind of wrapped up in it, and you start looking around, and it's like the longer you're there, you're like, oh, okay, now I see that. Now I see that. And it's like driving in the car back home. It's like, oh, wow, this is a lot different than the initial impression. It's like thinking about everything that goes into it. It was a really good experience for me.
And then you look on the map and there's 9 golf courses within 30 minutes of that golf course.
Right.
So you're right. It's you always have to overcome that excitement of, ooh, this is an opportunity.
Yeah.
And then it takes you a while to process it, to actually accept, it's a bad opportunity.
Yeah.
Just pass on it.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I hope people learn something. Again, I don't see that many people, whether it's golf Twitter or forums or Discord, talking a lot about golf courses for sale and the sale of golf courses. So I hope people learn something today. I think it's something that, people hear when a golf course is sold, but I don't think they really hear much leading up to that.
Well, and one of the things that I'd add is, and hopefully it's changing, but the golf course business struggled. Golf courses closing more than opened for a period of 5, 6, 7, 8 years, ever since the 2008 crash. Mm-hmm. It's been very stagnant and even going backwards. And in that process, what I've tried to convince owners of, if you're buying a golf course to make money, you're making a mistake. How you can make money on a golf course is make it on your investment and the value of the property by improving it and doing a good job on the property. If you buy a golf course for $1.2, $1.5 million and you improve it, you increase the gross revenue, it's a much better property. 3 years later, you might have a $2.1 million property. And is it worth it for you to make that investment? As opposed to thinking, well, I'm going to make $500,000 a year running a golf course. That's not going to happen unless you have one of the unique properties in the country right now that no one's going to sell to you.
Right. Yeah, the courses that are just seemingly printing money. I think I can think of a few around up north. So yeah, I think that was a good talk. Hopefully if you're out finishing up your Christmas shopping, we gave you something to think about. Hopefully you learned something.
Start shopping for a golf course.
Yeah. Yeah. Just walk into pro shops and ask people if their golf course is for sale.
I would add this. If you have maybe 9 children, teenage years, then you have a better opportunity at running a golf course, but you have free labor. But outside of that, it's a challenge.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge, but it's a fun challenge. That's for sure. All right. Well, anything else you want to add?
Just have a Merry Christmas, I guess.
Any more child labor laws you'd like to break before we go?
Nah. Hey, I think if you're the parents, there are no labor laws.
I don't know if that's true. I really have no idea. All right, we're gonna get out of here. Thanks for
before we get phone calls.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to I Hate Golf. It's awesome this week. Make sure you subscribe, rate us, do all that stuff. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You know where to find it. So have a great Christmas, and we'll see you next week.